our Judicial Watch special Facebook Live update, our weekly update. A lot of big news this week on the Clinton email front. Yesterday was due, and we did get the answers to our 25 questions that a federal court authorized us to ask Mrs. Clinton. Her responses were given to us under oath, and the responses were in writing, and here they are. The answers are about what you might think they are. Obviously very lawyerly answers, and she said she could not recall virtually anything related to our questions. And so we had 25 questions, and we count 20 times her saying she can't recall answers to the topics we asked her about related to her email scandal. These topics include specific consultations about her use of the email system, communications about her decision to use the email system. She doesn't recall whether she had a specific expectation that the State Department would even receive requests under the Freedom of Information Act for her records. She doesn't recall whether she authorized or participated in any discussions about deleting records. Deleting records, she can't recall that. She doesn't recall whether she was she had seen a cable that basically warned everyone, sent out under her signature and name, warning everyone in the State Department not to use personal email for government business. Now, I don't know about you, but all those failures to recollect this basic information is not terribly credible. And we asked her some specific questions about why it is she continued to use the system despite warnings about security. And rather than answer that question, her lawyers objected that it was beyond the scope of our discovery, which we don't think was appropriate. So what's going to happen now is our lawyers are going to have to examine these responses, examine her objections, and figure out what to do next. And so I don't want to say what we're going to do next because that's a legal, it's going to be a legal step will be taken, and the lawyers need to figure that out. But in the meantime, you can go on our website at judicialwatch.org and look at all the answers. We've got the complete document up posted, and so you can review them for yourself. And I can tell you the media reaction was quite vociferous to her failure to recall and recollect virtually anything related to the email system. So I'll leave it to you to take a look at them all. I don't want to go through all the 25 questions with you, but you can imagine anything of substance she didn't recall much of. And a lot of her failures to recollect is a little bit odd. At one point, she doesn't remember. She recalls that she did it for convenience sake. And then we said, well, who recommended for her for convenience? And then she says it was Colin Powell. But then she told the FBI Colin Powell had nothing to do with her deciding to use the email system. So lots of contradictions even within the questions, and a lot of online commentary about it. I suggest you Google it and search it out. But it shows you that Mrs. Clinton, with these really unpersuasive responses, has just once again focused Americans' attention on her failure of transparency, her lack of disclosure on her email usage. And I can't imagine the courts are going to be terribly thrilled with her failure to recall basic information about her email usage, including about whether she destroyed records, which to me is just unbelievable. So I encourage you to look that up, again, at our website at judicialwatch.org. Also, when you're looking at the news, there was a big New York Times story about Judicial Watch this week. It wasn't terribly friendly, but it was all right. They gave us credit for pursuing the Clinton email scandal. Obviously, the author was not the biggest fan of our efforts, but we come across as a successful, powerful entity in terms of trying to get the truth out about the Clinton email scandal. And as you might imagine, the Clinton campaign responding to us and certainly the release of these questions yesterday attacked our frivolous lawsuit and told us that we're just trying to, basically told the media that we're just out to get Hillary, which isn't the truth. The truth is we're trying to get the documents that are due to us under the federal law, and we're trying to get the truth for the courts who have these questions. So, the Clinton camp wants to attack Judicial Watch when, in fact, they're attacking the federal court process and the fundamental rule of law. And I think that's something worth remembering. And why is it they don't want you to know about the Clinton emails? Because they're not helpful to them. They make Mrs. Clinton look like she was up to no good. And sure enough, we have emails that have come out just this past week. Again, more emails from Huma Abedin, her deputy chief of staff, who had a separate email account on this Clinton email server on which she was conducting government business. And the new emails we found show that Mrs. Clinton, despite her promises to stay out of the Clinton Foundation, they were setting up a photo op for primary sponsors of the Clinton Global Initiative, which was an operation tied to the Clinton Foundation. So they're helping do a photo op with the funders for the Clinton Global Initiative while she's Secretary of State. How does that work? And you'll see in our release, which is also up on our website, I don't know if we can link it on the Facebook Live feed here, but you'll see the number, all these major corporations were primary sponsors, so you'll see why it's controversial. But probably even more importantly, these new Abedin emails contain new Clinton emails, once again, that she didn't turn over, as she suggested she did under oath again. So we now have uncovered, we found 7 new Clinton emails for a total of 235 new Clinton emails that she did not disclose as required by law, and as she seemingly testified that she did, both in our case and to Congress. And some of these emails that we had disclosed this past week, they show that Huma Abedin and Mrs. Clinton were accessing, again, classified information, this time about Afghanistan. So the State Department just gave us this new document that's classified about Afghanistan that Huma Abedin was sending around on her non-state.gov account, and that Mrs. Clinton was trying to access, but she said, I can't access it, send it and print it out to me again. So it shows that Abedin and Mrs. Clinton were both using this classified material on this non-secure, non-state.gov account, and again, showing why we should, I think, as Americans, be upset there hasn't been sufficient legal accountability for that mishandling of classified information by Hillary Clinton. And I also call your attention to Wall Street Journal today. Our chief investigative reporter Micah Morrison has a great op-ed on transparency, not related to Hillary Clinton, but to Donald Trump. And he talks about why it would be the good thing for him to release more information about his business activity, about his IRS forms and things like that, and why that makes good sense and that's the right thing to do. And he may regret being so crimped in terms of disclosing information that he may not want to disclose for various reasons to the American people. And so, people like Donald Trump, who, everyone thinks that Judicial Watch, or the left likes to think Judicial Watch is only after transparency for Democrats. That's not true. We sued the Bush administration twice as much as we sued the Clinton administration on transparency grounds. And you'll see in today's Wall Street Journal, we're calling through Micah for a little bit more transparency from Donald Trump, the Republican standard bearer. So, and believe me, if Trump wins the presidency, there's going to be a lot of fights over transparency with his administration, because that's what administrations do. They don't want to be transparent in the end, no matter who's running them. Now, we all hope whoever the next president is, things will change, but let's not be naive. So, a lot going on here at Judicial Watch. Big news stories in the New York Times about our work, big headlines, and much more information, and controversial information straight from Mrs. Clinton under oath. And I can tell you, our questions seemingly were more direct and tougher than the FBI, because she didn't really want to answer them directly and wasn't straightforward with us. So you can see why our questioning and our court process is the only game in town right now, practically speaking, when it comes to holding Mrs. Clinton accountable over her use and misuse of her email system. And then, of course, we have the new Clinton Foundation documents out there as well. So thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week with some more information about the Clinton email scandal and some new developments and new lawsuits that we just filed this week that I'll tell you about next week. So stay tuned, and you can track all our work on an ongoing basis, obviously, here on Facebook and over at our website at judicialwatch.org and on Twitter and elsewhere. So thanks again. Have a great weekend.